I'm Dina Rashdan, product manager at Tamatem. I'll be talking about best practices on product publishing and live ops in the MENA region. Okay, a little background about Tamatem. We publish mobile games in the MENA region in Arabic. We partner up with mobile game developers to localize and publish their mobile games in the MENA region. We have published more than 45 games. We got more than 100 million downloads across games. And more than 40 of those 45 games reached #1 top charts on Google Play Store and the App Store. Why should you publish in the Arabic market? Given that the Arabic language is the 4th most spoken language in the world, there is only less than 1% online content in Arabic. So there is room for creativity and room for publishing games. 360 million Arabic-speaking smartphone users in the MENA region and worldwide. We have one of the highest RPPU in the world, and the market size is estimated to become 2.4 billion in 2022. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to talk about how to best localize your product for the MENA region and the Arabic speaking user. What's the best practices for live ops or live events inside your game, and how to publish it or publish your games for the MENA region. So starting with product best practices, we're gonna understand the Arabic user, the behavior and the persona of those users. What are the Arab regional differences, and what is localization for the Arab user? Starting with understanding the Arabic user, in general, the Arabic user plays 2 to 3 games at a time. We prefer to play our games in our native tongue because mostly our first language is Arabic. This is for a starter. And second, most of the Arabic users don't know English or any other language. Digging deeper into the Saudi Arabian user persona, they have the highest RPPU in the world, which is 8 times higher than China's RPPU. We're the second, Saudi Arabia actually is the second most profitable in mobile gaming after Turkey. And more than 75% are active online, not only games, but active online, whether it was YouTube, games, anything that's online. 25% spend 1 to 4 hours a day online, which is a lot. I'm going to talk about the male user specifically and then the female user. For the male user, they have a minimum of 2 hours of free time daily and up to 7 hours free time daily. 83% of males are mobile gamers as well. 86% between ages 25 and 34, which is the dominant part or the dominant age group. And 16% spend between $50 and $100 per month on gaming specifically. For the female users, it's a bit less than that, but it's an emerging target audience. There's a lot of, there's a big room for creativity here. Only 48% of females are mobile gamers. They spend 25 to 45 minutes a day playing games. And those numbers are increasing year on year. 31% spend on games per month. This was much less few years earlier, but it's increasing, as I mentioned. And 10% spend $10 to $50 per month. So moving on to Arab regional differences, different countries have different users from different countries have different player types. So, for example, users in Saudi Arabia likes to be social, for example, or the Levant area love to be competitive. So across different countries like Levant, GCC, or North African regions, each have their own intent or objectives when playing games. So we have to understand which game genres they like in terms of countries, and you have to cater your game to suit the target audience and not only MENA region. So you have to keep that in mind when localizing for the MENA region. The game mechanics and features need to reflect the target culture, definitely. So as I mentioned before, the users from different countries prefer different things. So some prefer skins and cosmetics. They like to show off with rare content and rare material inside the game. Others love to play with the storyline. So the storyline should be culturally relevant. You have to suit your target audience. Some subjects are taboo in the MENA region, so you have to avoid mentioning those items inside your story, for example. So you have to make it culturally relevant and suitable for their values. Their interests and likes differs from the, for example, US user. So cater your game accordingly. Localization is not translation. I think we all know that. You shouldn't translate your text word by word. So you have to understand the text and then localize it according to your target audience. And specifically for the Arabic language, the text is written from right to left rather than left to right. As I mentioned, storylines should have changes made to it if it has some of the taboo subjects in it. We have to use the appropriate dialect. Different dialects are used in the Arabic language, especially the North African dialect is different than the Levant and different than the GCC dialect. So you have to choose the right word or the right text localization that suits everyone and for everyone to understand. We also localize voiceovers to make the experience whole for the user and enjoy the game. Local culture is very important to keep in mind when localizing the game. Art and graphics, you could go not only to localize the text inside the game, you could localize the UI and flip it to start from the right to left instead of left to right, for example, the loading bar. The art itself, the characters inside the game could be localized to look more relevant to the features of the Arabic users. And we don't stop there only. Since you localized everything inside your game, you should localize the first thing that the user sees, which is the App Store page or the Google Play Store page. So you should localize your ASO material as well. I have one example here where we localized Airport City by Game Insight for the MENA region. This is the icon and one of the previews that we had localized as an ASO material. You can see on the left side with the Game Insight logo, this is the original logo for the original Airport City. And on the right, you can see that we added some monuments from Arab countries to make it more relevant, to show the users that we have localized the game. And in the screenshot itself, you can see that we changed it. We added a character that's relevant to the MENA region, and we added items inside the game that resembles the culture we have in the MENA. You can see the pyramid, you can see a tent. We added that for Ramadan, which is, I'm going to go to that topic in the live ops. We also added destinations. So the concept of this game was to fly to destinations and grow your airport. So we added some destinations such as Cairo, Riyadh, and other countries as well. You had assets inside the game. We kept all the assets inside the game, but we made it culturally relevant by adding more localized assets and localized collectibles inside the game. Text localization is not translation. I wanted to show you what's the Arabic letters and how you write it. You can see in many poorly localized games, the one on the left side, which represents that the letters are separated and not connected. This is the Arabic language. You have the characters or the letters connected, unlike the English language, for example, where all characters are separated. So this is poorly localized, and this is the right way to localize your Arabic language. We have faced this also while localizing Airport City. On the left, you don't see separated letters, but if you're an Arabic user, you can see that the sentence starts from the second line and not the first line. And this doesn't make sense at all here because the sentences are not aligned well, and it's not starting from the right to left. So when we localized it and we worked with a developer, we achieved the right way of localization by changing the text direction from right to left, and guided the developer to actually align the text properly to deliver the right message. Moving on to live ops best practices, we're going to talk about support, how you can support the Arabic user. It's different than working with any other user in other regions, localized in-game events, and supporting the community. So overview about the support. The Arabic user needs like a huge amount of support while playing the game. They love to talk, they love to ask, they love to explore the game, but they need some guidance inside the game. So we have a 24-hour support 7 days a week, actively responding to users' requests. Our agents should be knowledgeable in the game. They should know everything inside the game, inside out, to actually answer or to cater the demand of the user. We build relationship with them. This is very important because Arabic user likes to feel special. And when you build that relationship with them, you extend that loyalty. We take all measurements, and this is highly recommended, not only to work with your user by responding to the ticketing system, but taking extra measurements by calling them if it's needed, calling them on WhatsApp if it's needed, sending in-game messages, or whatever works with the user in order to achieve what they want. MENA region is filled with whales. That's why we have the highest RPPU in the world. So we actively look for whales and we look after them. We do weekly check-ins with them, and sometimes we do daily check-ins with them because they deliver insights that we would have never guessed on our own. So we value their opinion. Those are the most valuable users you have inside the game. Our whales also ask constantly for new content, for rare content, as they want to feel unique and they want to show off that they're whales, that they're exclusively owning items inside the game. As for the engagement and in-game events, you should celebrate real life events that's happening in the MENA region. For example, if there is a national day for any of the countries, we celebrate it inside the game, whether it was in a competition or if it was a special offer or a promotion inside the game or special item specifically for this event, we celebrate it in game. The user appreciates that so much and feels super relevant to the game. For community building, it's very important as well for the user to feel that he's socially active with other players and that they belong to something. Our users are so social that they need the social interaction. And a game that's not so social or doesn't have any social aspect wouldn't work as good as a game with social interaction. We create competitions inside the game if the game allows us to. A certain genre wouldn't allow you to have themed competitions, for example, or competitions inside the game. But competitions definitely drive engagement since you have leaderboards where users can celebrate their achievements inside the game. The Arabic user love that so much. As I mentioned earlier, when celebrating real life events, you can do themed competitions as well and have event-based competitions. Publishing best practices. I'm going to talk a bit about user acquisition, about monetization, and I think I'm not going to talk about growth and partnerships. Okay, so more on localization. We're going to, okay, so other than localizing your game and the ASO aspect and material of your game, you also have to have a social presence on the social media platforms. This will help you to grow organically and interact and give users a space to interact together outside the game. You can also hold competitions on social media pages to engage users with in-game activity, but also motivate them to get in-game currency and achieve more inside the game. Localization also doesn't stop only there. You have to localize your creatives and not localize them only to Arabic, but localize them for the regional differences I mentioned earlier. So the dialect is different for North African countries or the GCC. So digging deeper into that and localizing the creatives, not only to Arabic, but different dialects, will help you further. We also customize our push notifications. We also customize it in different dialects, targeting different countries and not only in Arabic. You should try different approaches with art and assets. Everything should be A/B tested, whether it was an icon, whether it was preview on the App Store or Google Play Store, whether it was a feature inside the game. Every decision that we make for our games is data-driven and it's not only opinionated. You have to choose the right marketing method for the region. You have to explore a lot and test a lot, as I mentioned. Also, the ad networks, you have to choose the right ad network which you want to implement inside the game, because not all ad networks are profitable in the MENA region. And that's it. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much, Dina. And I think it's time for questions. So the first question is, what about metrics in United Arab Emirates? Have you some information about the separate country?
It depends on the genre. It depends on everything inside the game. So if you know the KPIs for different genres, you can have a benchmark when localizing your game and publishing it for the MENA region or specifically the UAE. So have that benchmark and compare it to your game. The benchmarks in the MENA region is sometimes better in retention. I'm not talking specifically for UAE, but it's sometimes better in retention when the game is localized properly. We've seen that in different products we localized and published in the MENA region. And the monetization is definitely higher because the RPPU is usually higher. So it's better in the MENA region.
Okay, great. And the second question from the audience is, what are the holidays, Arabic holidays in Arabic countries, and what are the dates of some events?
Okay, so it's a bit weird, but we have a different calendar. It's, if I tell you like in May, it doesn't always come in May. For example, any like public holiday in the MENA region. For example, Ramadan, last year it was in April. This is the biggest event we have in the MENA region where we celebrate Ramadan. We have Eid after Ramadan and after 3 months, end of Ramadan. So you have those 3 big events that you should definitely celebrate inside your game. You can Google when does Ramadan start when does Eid start, because it's different year on year because we shift our calendar. It's different, the system.
So, Dina, thank you very much again. It was really awesome. So stay with us.